Good morning. It's time to rise in freedom. I'm your host, Austin Peterson, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. Thanks for tuning in this morning. We're glad to have you here. Let's get this show started. At the top of the program, we're going to talk to Dr. Robert Onder to discuss adding the vaccine to the schedule for school kids. And after that, Senator Ted Cruz was accosted at his appearance on The View. I've got the clip. We'll discuss it. And I've also got some recent clips from Kanye West, who's now been canceled by Adidas. We're going to talk to Andrew Handel from the American Legislative Exchange Council about, is our children learning? Yeah, kids are getting dumber. The math scores came out, and it's not looking good for school kids in the wake of the pandemic. Also, at 8 a.m. this morning, we're going to speak to Hannah Cox about the new Satanic Panic. Is it time to put away your Dungeons and Dragons? Go back to church. We'll talk to Ann about that at 8 a.m. Camellia Peterson joins us to talk about a tragedy in St. Louis, a school shooting where none of the guards who were supposed to protect the school were armed. Some people were killed. We'll discuss that at 8 a.m. this morning. And then at the end of the show, Marlon Wayons, yes, that Marlon Wayons of In Living Color fame, is not going to be on the show. We're not that big yet. But he's talking this morning about how he couldn't have made white chicks in this cancel culture of today. We'll talk about all that later. But first, let's go to our first guest, Dr. Robert Onder, joining us on the program right now this morning. Good morning, Dr. Bob. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here, Dr. Bob. Certainly, those of you who are familiar with my history, people who know me from the last few years, know that we had a great series of interviews where we talked on the radio during the pandemic. And you are a medical doctor. Your title, I think, specifically is respiratory therapist. Is that what you'd say? You're a doctor.
No, I'm an allergy and asthma specialist, so I take care of a lot of asthma, COPD, a board-certified immunologist. So I can speak to these issues of respiratory illness and vaccines, I think, pretty well.
Good to know. And I'm glad you said that, because I know that whenever we talk about the V word, especially on social media, which is, where we're broadcasting this, the censors love to crack down on any opinion that doesn't conform to what Dr. Fauci said today, even if he changes his mind tomorrow, because he is the science. Just so you know, Dr. Bob Onder is the science. So if you're a social media censor, Dr. Onder is literally the science. Dr. Bob, I guess I brought you on here to talk about the big story, which is that there's a push now to add the COVID vaccine to the schedule for school children. What's your take?
Yeah, that's right, Austin. Last week, the CDC advisory panel voted to add COVID vaccine to the mandatory vaccine schedule for toddlers, despite really scant evidence of effectiveness in this age group, even less evidence that COVID-19 poses a serious risk of injury or death on these very young children. And despite the fact that 97% of children have already had and been and recovered from COVID-19, so they have natural immunity. So far from following the science, it appears that the advisory committee of the CDC is just going along with this sort of vaccine absolutism, something that Dr. Fauci has illustrated since the 1980s and the AIDS epidemic. Dr. Fauci, year after year after year, poo-pooed other therapeutics for HIV because we needed a vaccine, right? Well, fast forward to 2022, we don't have a vaccine for HIV. And I hate to say it, although the COVID-19 vaccine, I think for those at risk of serious complications or death, especially older people, especially people with underlying medical conditions, it can be of benefit of reducing the risk of death and hospitalization. But the idea that COVID-19 vaccines should be mandated for everyone, much less children, for whom influenza and RSV and other viruses pose far greater risk, and we don't mandate those vaccines, I think is the height of ignoring the data.
If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Dr. Robert Onder. We're speaking to him about the CDC voting to add the COVID-19 vaccine to the mandated schedule for school children. Dr. Bob, do you think they're doing this for political reasons? It almost feels like they're really just trying to stick their finger or stick their thumbs in the eyes of their political opponents rather than trying to make a scientific decision.
Well, I think there's a lot of that going on, Austin. I think over and over again, we have seen things that seem to work, that the scientific establishment poo-pooed, and at the same time that had scant to no evidence of efficacy, for instance, mask mandates and keeping our kids out of school, that they shoved down our throats. And it's almost like they enjoyed the raw support of pushing people around. Lord Acton said power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. These public health officials, whose role just a few years ago was merely to compile disease statistics and formulate our flu shot formula every year, now all of a sudden had absolute power on every area of our lives, from what we wore on our face to what vaccine we received, to even whether landlords could evict tenants for not paying rent. So we really have created a class of unelected oligarchs who love ruling over us. And then there's the virtue signaling, Austin. If you wear a mask, if you get your 25th booster, and you shelter in place and do your work from your laptop at home, you are more virtuous than those of us mere mortals who have skepticism about those things. And we see the consequences of all this. We have a mental health crisis among our young people like we've never had before. Later in your show, you're going to discuss the extremely poor educational attainment and the drop even this year, even though most kids have been back to school for a little while. This is just the worst public health mistake, our response to the COVID-19 vaccine in human history.
If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Dr. Robert Onder. You can text the show at 573-319-1586 if you have a question for Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob, the governor of the state of Missouri, Mike Parson, has vowed that he will not comply with this recommendation from the CDC. I mean, how much power does the governor have in Missouri to be able to block the implementation of that? And do you think that that's likely that the governor will prevail?
So really good question. The CDC action last week per se does not have force of law in the state of Missouri. So that recommendation to add COVID-19 vaccines for toddlers to the list of pediatric immunizations, that doesn't really have any force of law per se. The concerning thing is that is where the list of mandated vaccines tends to come from. Remember the battle we had in the Missouri Senate over the confirmation of Ron Karoff, who I believe was a true believing COVID tyrant from the state of Illinois, who presided over J.B. Pritzker's reign of terror in that state. Fortunately, the Missouri Senate Conservative Caucus derailed his nomination, and that was pulled back. But many times these public health so-called experts have a very dogmatic, very doctrinaire mindset. And not only the public health experts, but the people who run our hospitals. I remember sitting down with Dr. Alex Garza, the quote commander of the St. Louis Region Pandemic Task Force. I'm not making that up. He gave himself the title of commander. And Ms. Kaiser, the CEO of SSM Health System, they were telling County Executive Ailman and me that St. Charles County must have a mask mandate, and that we were the weak link against fighting COVID. Fast forward, a year, we had 50% fewer COVID hospitalizations and death per capita than St. Louis County, which had a mask mandate. So I worry that as long as the public health establishment is pushing this on us, that even if the state of Missouri doesn't have a COVID vax mandate for toddlers, what's to keep a school district, what's to keep a hospital from saying we're not going to let your kids come into our hospital for routine procedures unless they've been vaccinated? Working that, I've seen medical practices around St. Louis who will not treat unvaccinated children, and that's just despicable. It's a violation of the Hippocratic Oath, and it's a triumph of politics over science and good health care.
That's good stuff. We're speaking to Senator Dr. Bob Onder. Dr. Onder is joining us now to discuss adding the vaccine to the schedule for mandated vaccines for school children. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. So, Dr. Bob, where do you think this all ends up? I mean, Robbie Thurman over on the live stream this morning says that when you follow the science, it usually heads back to the money. I mean, do you think that there is you think there is a pecuniary interest in a lot of this?
Well, yeah, Austin. Remember when Senator Ron Paul questioned Fauci as to whether those on these vaccine advisory committees at the NIH, CDC, and so on, whether they were disclosing whether they had financial interests in the pharma companies that they were regulating. Fauci said quite arrogantly, we do not by law have to disclose those things, and therefore we're not going to. Now, if you asked me today, Dr. Bob, do you have any Moderna or Pfizer stock? I would say without hesitation, Austin, no, I don't. Maybe I have some mutual funds that have, 1.01% of their money in Pfizer or Moderna, but no, I don't have any pecuniary interest in any pharmaceutical companies. Why didn't Dr. Fauci say that? And why don't the others involved in this advisory process, why don't they why are they not saying? So I think it does come back to money, not to mention this phenomenon of, quote, regulatory capture. We know that the FDA commissioner or bureaucrat who gave Purdue Pharma permission to say OxyContin was less addictive than other opiates, he went on to go to Purdue Pharma and with a six-figure job. So some of this is corrupt to high heaven, and really the evidence of vaccine effectiveness and safety in toddlers is nearly non-existent. The couple of children, there were only two toddlers who were admitted to the hospital with COVID-19 in the clinical trials of the vaccine. And those kids both had other viruses as well as COVID-19. The evidence is almost non-existent for the safety and effectiveness of this drug in this very young pediatric population.
Dr. Bob, one last question before I let you go. Being in the conservative community, being in the libertarian community, naturally, I see a lot of, memes shared in my timeline, a lot of stories shared in my timeline about, healthy people like athletes, dropping dead from myocarditis, the illusion is, and they don't say it specifically, but, people who are friends in the community, are, pointing fingers at the vaccine for this. Do you think that that's directly attributable to these healthy people who are dying from myocarditis? I mean, or is it this situation where it's like correlation and causation? People are people making a fallacious, judgment here based on, well, because something happened before this must have caused it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so Austin, as you know, there is an increased risk of myocarditis, especially in older boys and young men receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. That is well documented. Even Dr. Fauci would probably admit that. Last month, there were data a very important study of military recruits who were, mandated to get the COVID-19 vaccine of myocarditis in those young men. And what myocarditis is inflammation of the heart muscle. Completely healthy heart muscle just doesn't go into an abnormal rhythm and kill people all on its own. So yes, myocarditis is going to tend to predispose to heart rhythms, including malignant, lethal heart rhythms. So it is true that correlation doesn't mean causation, and anecdote does not equal evidence. But it's very concerning. And if you are, let's say you are the parent of a 16-year-old boy, and you're saying, okay, there's this relatively small but unknown exactly risk of myocarditis, versus an illness that my child has essentially zero risk of dying of, and my child had COVID and recovered 6 months ago, so he has natural immunity. Maybe I don't want to vaccinate my son. That would make sense. And we entrust parents with many, many things, almost everything regarding the raising and upbringing of their children. Why in this case should we make an exception? And the CDC and the FDA have not made a compelling case why in that case the vaccine should be mandated.
Good stuff. Senator Dr. Robert Onder joining us. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Bob. Really appreciate it. It's good to talk to you again. We'll definitely have to have you back on the show.
Great talking to you anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thank you very much. Did you like Dr. Bob? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I feel like I'm going to get in trouble for that interview. I don't know why, but I just feel like there's going to be like some kind of ban hammer that's going to come down somewhere. I don't know, Facebook, YouTube, or whatever. I'm not sure. I just feel like I'm going to get in trouble for that, even though that was the science. Well, there you go. All right. So Senator Ted Cruz, a federal senator, got accosted on The View. I've got the clips. I'll play that for you when we get back from the commercial break on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Stronger and better.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's 7:27. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show with Austin Peterson at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Did you like our interview there with Senator and Dr. Bob Onder? We got a couple of text messages. I'm sorry I didn't see them during the interview. One listener texted in and said, does the CDC recognize natural immunity? Good question. I'll send that over to Dr. Bob, see if I can get a response for you. Another listener says that the Wood Hippie thinks Dr. Bob is the most sane healthcare professional he's heard in years. Truth equals trouble in modern America. Yes, it is. As Dr. Ron Paul famously said, truth is treason and the empire of lies. I've got a clip for you. A little bit of Twitter weirdness. Let's head over to that scene there. Senator Ted Cruz appeared on The View yesterday. And some climate protesters showed up. Thankfully, they didn't throw any tomato soup on him. I thought this clip was pretty funny, though. Take a listen to this. This is Senator Ted Cruz talking about inflation on The View.
Look at inflation. The Nobel laureate economist, Milton Friedman, explained in the United States inflation has one cause and one cause only. Inflation in the United States
feel it getting cooler.
One cause and one cause only. And that is when the federal government spends too much money. Okay. We have seen trillions and trillions of dollars spent by Joe Biden and the Democrats. Just last year, the federal government took in $4 trillion in tax revenues. Most money in history we've ever taken.
Ladies, you're not saving the climate by screaming at Senator Ted Cruz, please.
The problem is we spent.
Now, Whoopi's going to get in on this. Hold on.
And that's what
we do cover climate here, guys. We do cover climate. Ladies, excuse us. Let us do our job. Let us do our job. We hear what you have to say, but you got to go. You got to go. Let us do our job.
Ooh, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Oh, man.
Well, I'd like
Let us do our job. Shouting down the climate protesters. Get them, Whoopi. Get them, Whoopi. And I saw this other interview with Kanye West between Lex Friedman and Kanye West. Fascinating conversation. Take a listen to this clip.
Force subjective information is just to weaken and indoctrinate our species. And that's what schools do now.
As an engineer, I love hearing you say that, but to push back, history is not, the interpretation of history might be subjective, but history has some facts and they're useful to give a grounding to the way you do engineering.
I don't 100% believe in anything, any concept of the future or any concept of history, because history was just written by the victors.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Good point.
I see stuff happen on the day that later that day is reported wrong. So how wrong is something reported 1,000 years ago? And why would we argue about something that's not in the now? Because that's the only thing that everyone can agree upon, is that it is now, right now.
Yeah, well, you try not to make the mistakes of the past. That's the usefulness of history, the limited usefulness of history.
The biggest mistake from the past that we keep making is looking at the past.
Too much. Giving too much value to the past.
Too much value to the past. We are now. We are now. We are here. We are one species. We are one race. We're here. And it's time. And the leadership is changing.
I love this stuff. This is good stuff. I've got more Kanye clips. I'll have to play them out for you through the rest of the show because I've got a great guest coming up next. Andrew Handel from the American Legislative Exchange Council is going to be joining me to talk about that report card that showed how badly our kids were damaged by the pandemic in our educational system. We'll talk about all that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Peterson's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Peterson's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Good morning, it's 7:35 and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. It's time to rise in freedom. Did you hear us talking yesterday about our nation's report card that showed that 4th and 8th graders are slipping? They be tripping. And not just on the playground, no, in the classroom. Post-pandemic, the grades aren't looking too good, with math being the worst of all. Joining me to discuss this nation's report card is Andrew Handel. He serves as the director of the Education and Workforce Development Task Force for the American Legislative Exchange Council. Don't even try and say that 5 times fast. Andrew, good morning. Welcome to the program today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. So I guess could you give us the broad overview of what we're looking at here? Because all of the headlines are blaring right now that our children are getting dumber.
Yeah, I mean, these. I think we all expected to see quite a bit of learning loss, following the pandemic. I think the magnitude of the drop still shocked a lot of the experts. I mean, we're talking the lowest scores in 4th and 8th grade reading and math in 2 decades. 2 decades of progress wiped out in 2 years. It's completely astonishing, and it's a symptom of the public school's failure to really adapt to the changing environment that COVID brought, the failure to figure out a better way to teach these kids virtually, as opposed to just jumping onto Zoom and calling it a day.
Andrew, the math scores showed to be the worst of all, but America wasn't doing so hot educationally before the pandemic, were we?
Right, we weren't. Yeah, I mean, we've seen slow, minuscule increases in these scores over the years. But even that, all gets wiped away. I think, as I mentioned, it's really symptomatic of, the broader problems that we have systematically in the way we approach education. Assigning kids to a school based on nothing more than a zip code and not accounting for their unique needs and their unique situations, really is the problem here. We need more freedom in education.
One of the things, absolutely, definitely agree with you there. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Andrew Handel from the American Legislative Exchange Council about America's report card, which showed that post-pandemic that our science, technology, engineering, and math futures might not be too great with the current generation of children who are affected by the pandemic. Remote learning, obviously, is what many people are pointing their fingers at. But people like myself would blame the Department of Education and the policies that have been handed down by the forced unionization of our federal workforce in the education system. Andrew, I mean, how much did the bureaucrats, have a hand in their policies during the pandemic in achieving these results?
Yeah, they had a huge hand in this. Obviously, the government spent trillions of dollars in one-time appropriations in response to COVID, and hundreds of billions of that went to our nation's K-12 schools. And, some of it was meant to address teacher shortages. Others, in other cases, it was meant to address, upgrades to HVAC equipment, whatever it might be. The reality is nobody, sat back and thought, how do we actually, address this learning loss that's going on? How do we get teachers better prepared to teach online? How do we make sure that they have the resources to be able to do that? How do we get these kids, encourage these kids to focus during these classes rather than just sit there with their camera off and not pay attention? Those were all afterthoughts, and it was, as you mentioned, unionization, the teachers unions had a pretty big hand in this as well.
If you want to text the show, you can at 573-319-1586. If you have a question, you can ask it, send it in at 573-319-1586. So, how are we going to make up for this, Andrew? I mean, are kids going to be, needing to be held back, or, what do you think, in a best case scenario, how do we kind of make up for lost time here, would you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think lining to all of this, to the pandemic and the issues there, it's that we've seen states starting to respond by passing new policies. Over a third of the states passed or created or expanded programs in education freedom. So that could be something like an education savings account, which Missouri just did. They passed a tax credit version of that called the Empowerment Scholarship Account program. And those are the kinds of things that really give more power to the parents, lean on them to pick the best schooling environment for their students based on their unique needs. And that's really what we need more of. There's too many families today who are effectively trapped in a public school that's not working for them, whether they don't have any other options available to them, or maybe they do, but there's a financial barrier. So, these programs are especially important for those low and middle income families who might be seeking alternative options.
Now, we have been tracking the career of Corey DeAngelis, who's been a big advocate for school choice. And one of the big victories that he's been touting recently is what's been happening out in Arizona. Have you been following that?
I have. Yeah, they expanded their Empowerment Scholarship Account program to every single student in the state. So, in Missouri, for example, unfortunately, that ESA program is limited to the urban areas of the state, more populated areas. In Arizona, it's every single family. They had so many families applying when this first went live that the Department of Education's website crashed. Couldn't handle all the traffic coming in. They had over 20,000 initial applications, and they're still rolling in.
Wow, that's pretty fascinating. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Andrew Handel from the American Legislative Exchange Council. He serves as their director of the Education and Workforce Development Task Force. We're talking about the nation's report card that came out, which showed dismal results, specifically for 4th and 8th grade students. And one of the things that I wasn't able to explain, because I'm not an education expert like yourself, Andrew, was just how critical the 4th and 8th grade years are for child development. Are you able to talk to that?
Yeah, sure. Those are pivotal years. In fact, that's why on the National Assessment for Educational Progress, which is where we got these test scores from yesterday, that's why they look at 4th and 8th grade specifically. They've done a lot of research, and they found that those are two of the more consequential years in a student's development. Those are kind of the 8th grade obviously is a transition into high school, which is a very different educational environment, and 4th grade is also leading into middle school just before 5th grade. So but it's important to remember that these years stack on one another, right? So as 4th graders fall further and further behind in math and reading, they've got to try and make that up in their 5th grade years and their 6th grade years, and because all of this content builds on the previous year's knowledge. And so if those students don't have that knowledge, teachers have to waste more time focusing on things that they should already know, and then by the time they graduate, they're just not ready for college.
Andrew, is there anything else that you think that our listeners should know before we let you go?
Yeah, no, I think I try to put a positive light on it. Obviously the results are terrible, and there's no getting around that. But on the positive side, we are starting to see states take action. States like Missouri, Arizona, West Virginia. They're all really starting to reimagine the way we think about education. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that in the coming years too.
Good stuff. Well, I look forward to hearing more from you, Andrew Handel. He is the director of the Education and Workforce Development Task Force at ALEC. We appreciate your time today, sir. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Well, did you like Andrew? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. When we get back, I've got more Kanye clips. He got canceled by Adidas. It's over for Kanye. That's it. Nobody's going to talk about Kanye anymore. That's right. He is stricken from the record. We strike him. Actually, we're going to talk about him. Oh, a lot more. Don't forget, we got Hannah Cox joining us this morning at 8:30 this morning to talk about the new Satanic Panic. And at 8 a.m. this morning, we'll speak to Camellia Peterson about a school shooting out in St. Louis. All that and more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I enlisted as a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury, I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you.
Had enough yet? Do facts no longer matter? Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have, the facts on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tea and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning. It's 7:49. I'm Austin Peterson. Why am I laughing? Because I read the comments. You never read the comments. Welcome to the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Austin, if you didn't want to read the comments, why would you put them up there on the show like that? Adam Armstrong's cracking me up this morning. He says, just because you don't want to acknowledge it doesn't mean the Satanists are out there drinking blood and sacrificing children to Moloch. I'm pretty sure the effigy at the cremation of Care isn't an effigy? Not sure what you're saying there. Another listener texted in and said the Satanic Panic was real. Look at the Finders documents the FBI released. Okay. Another listener texted in. Tony Allegra says the problem is the majority of celebrities go into the job, not political, and then they get political when their, quote, perceived importance grows. That's a good point. Listen, if you're pro-Satanic Panic, that's fine. More like satanic real as F. Hide your kids, says some guy, 93. That's okay, but here's the thing. If you're a conservative, a libertarian, right-winger, or whatever, you're going to hear from the pro-Satanic Panic people. They're going to say that, Satan is real, he's drinking blood, celebrities are worshiping him, I prefer to think that they're probably just trolling you, but you get to hear from another right-winger on the other side of things, right? Not everybody agrees. Some people don't believe in him. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in goblins. I don't believe in ghouls. And this is a terrible time of year to not be a believer because there's so much fun, spooky stuff out there. I mean, I like haunted houses and I like scary movies. I used to like them a lot more when I was young and believed in magic and ghosts and scary stuff. This season was way more fun when you were a believer. Because then you could be like, oh yeah, the demons and the Ouija boards, Ouijies. Is it Ouija or Ouija? Ouija? Ouija. We, yes. Ja, yes. Yes, yes. Beetlejuice. We've got a great show for you today. I've still got lots of great interviews and topics and guests for you. At the 8 o'clock, we're going to speak to Camellia Peterson about a school shooting out in St. Louis where the security guards were there. There were plenty of security guards, and none of them stopped the shooter. Guess why? I bet you can guess. Send a text, 573-319-1586. You can also have listen to Hannah Cox at 8:30 this morning, and somebody apparently is champing at the bit, texting in this morning, saying, oh my God, Hannah Cox, let me at her. Or should we give her a standing ovation? I say a standing ovation. Yeah, I think we'll be excited to have Hannah Cox on the show this morning. But first, let's hear from Kanye West in his interview with Lex Friedman. Fascinating stuff. Head on over to our Twitter scene. Let's take a listen to what Kanye has to say that's getting him canceled this day.
Clicks and views and so on. Sure, and then politicians do the same. They use the media, they influence the media to tell a story. And
this is a simple thing I'll put. I believe that the idea of anti-Semitism and the closeness of the Holocaust is used by certain individuals in media.
Individuals in media. You can tell he's being a little more careful these days. Continue, Kanye. Let's continue.
Not take accountability for the bad things that are happening. And what's happening is there's a new frontier, right? Meaning like
clicks and views and so on.
Oh God, Kanye, he's being real careful. Hold on. Well, let's hear what else Kanye's had to say today.
They'll say you're homophobic. And so I empathize with the position of the straight white male. And part of the reason why I empathize with that position
Thank you.
is because I know that I'm headed to that position. And what position that is? Top power position.
Oh my God. Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Who is not loving this? I mean, I know people are like, oh, they're trying to make excuses. He's bipolar, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of this stuff, I think Kanye is more right than he is wrong. What do you think? Send us a text 573-319-1586. Good morning, Jose Palacios. Good morning, Chris Morrill. Good morning, Some Guy 93. Glad to have you over here. This morning, we're trying to ask all of our listeners to join us over on YouTube. We're doing a YouTube Blitz this week where each day we're asking our listeners to join us on YouTube Monday through Friday, all week. All of our listeners over on YouTube, I'd be super grateful. So if you're on Facebook or on Rumble or wherever and you want to help support the show, please join us over at youtube.com/AP for Liberty. We'd love to hear from you over there. But quite frankly, it's fascinating too that Kanye comes out there and says these things about cancel culture, and he says these things that people consider anti-Semitic. Ben Shapiro's come out and said that, and the response has been the response to Kanye West saying that Jews originated cancel culture has been to completely cancel Kanye. Now, I know that there have been some things that were said about him and his banking with JP Morgan Chase, that some people thought that he was canceled by JP Morgan Chase, although there were reports that said that he had elected to move his money away from JP Morgan Chase before all of his comments went down and before he started saying a lot of these things that are getting him in trouble now. But, getting canceled from Adidas today, this is the latest news, getting pulled from, how many other opportunities that are getting yanked out from underneath his feet. What's fascinating is that if you're on Twitter, you'll see that a lot of the Black community is saying, oh, so how are you going to cancel Kanye for what he says about the Jews when he's been saying all of these other things about the Blacks for much longer, and nobody canceled him when he was saying these things about the Blacks, but all of a sudden he says things about the Jews, and now, now he's in big trouble, which I think is interesting, because the Black community is, they're not a monolith, and just like Jews are not a monolith either. They're individuals with their own individual thoughts and opinions on things. But I think it is indicative of, Kanye makes a lot of good points, not about the Jews, but he makes good points about cancel culture. And when he talks about, how if you do say anything about this affected group, you are going to get pulled from all of these things. Cancel culture is very real, and he's proving it right now in real time. Kanye West is now, speaking for a conservative group in this country who think that cancel culture is very real and very dangerous to free speech. It's fascinating because I was listening this morning to old audio of not Martin Luther King, but Malcolm X. And Malcolm X was saying what Kanye is saying on steroids. I mean, what Malcolm X was saying in this speech, I can't even play it for you here on this show because I think I would probably get canceled if I did it. Some people are cancel proof. I'm not cancel proof. I am cancelable because I'm just a little guy compared to people like Kanye West. If they can do it to Kanye West, they can destroy me. I go about as far as I think I can go and still, dance on the line, a little bit over it, a little bit back. You know what I think I'm going to get canceled for actually today? I'll tell you. I posted a joke meme yesterday about pit bulls. I wonder if I can pull it up for you here on the screen. Maybe I'll do it later. I posted a joke about pit bulls. I think I've realized who the biggest snowflakes are. The biggest snowflakes, it's not the Jews, it's not blacks, it's not gay people, it's not white males, it's not Karens. The biggest snowflakes I've learned, pit bull owners. You make a joke about pit bulls and they'll bite you faster than a pit bull will. Pit bull eating babies. Pit bull owners, don't cancel me. We'll be back with Camellia Peterson on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bullshit. This is my Didi's website, and I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bullshit is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bullshit is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy Bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
any real-world experience,
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
During last Friday's afternoon news dump, it was announced that President Joe Biden's administration had extended the COVID-19 national emergency, despite the president's recent declaration that, quote, the pandemic is over. This national emergency was first declared by President Donald Trump in January 2020 and has been renewed every 90 days since. This makes the 40th ongoing national emergency, and the oldest one of these is related to the 1979 Iran hostage crisis. When the president declares a national emergency, it grants him broad authority to respond to that emergency, such as things like managing means of production, in this case, vaccines and N95 mask manufacturing, as well as other things like sending military troops abroad and other extreme actions like instituting martial law, controlling transportation, and even communication. If you'll remember, President Trump stirred a controversy over this in recent years when he used his emergency powers to redirect billions of taxpayer dollars to help build the wall at the southern border after Congress declined his request to include the money in a government funding bill. The federal government has confirmed a nationwide shortage of Adderall, months after nearly 2/3 of community pharmacies reported that they were having trouble filling prescriptions. And despite this shortage, the federal government also indicates that it will not raise the drug's production quota for next year. In case you didn't already know, Adderall is a federally controlled substance because of its potential for abuse, and patients in most states can only pick up 1 month's supply at a time, and generally can only do so a few days before their previous prescription runs out. In response to the current shortage, the Food and Drug Administration has recommended that patients speak with their providers about finding alternative methods for treatment. The Drug Enforcement Agency, more commonly referred to as the DEA, every year sets up a production quota for Adderall to establish the quantities made for medical, scientific, and industrial use. Prescriptions for Adderall last year were up 10.4% compared to 2020. Between then and now, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, officials had relaxed federal rules that had required traditional in-person examinations before the prescription of addictive drugs like Adderall and Xanax. And in response to these rule changes, there was a boom in telehealth startup apps that were designed to streamline this relationship between remote providers and their patients. One of these popular telehealth apps, known as Cerebral Inc., is now under federal investigation for deceptive and unfair advertising and marketing practices after the Federal Trade Commission announced that it was stepping up enforcement against companies that, quote, trick or trap consumers into subscription services.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericashow.com. All right, you're all talking about pit bulls this morning. I see you over in the comments. We're going to talk about that, but just give us a minute. We've got an important subject that we have to hit first, but yeah, we will talk about pit bulls and why they should be completely banned for all time by the government, and we should do ATF raids on anybody who has one. Just kidding. Calm down. Guys get really upset about that kind of stuff. Just a joke, okay? Can you take a joke? All right. So yesterday, a tragedy in St. Louis got all of the Democratic politicians on their soapboxes. A shooting at a school out in St. Louis with several casualties. My friend Camellia Peterson is tracking the story closely. She's joining us now on the show. Good morning, CJ. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry it's such a dismal topic.
Good morning. I am too. That was this is really tragic and very unfortunate. Yesterday morning, so I mean, you know, for those of our viewers, listeners who are not aware, yesterday morning there was a school shooting in South St. Louis at the Central Visual and Performing Arts High School. And the thing is that this is not a bad area of town. This is not a bad area of St. Louis. And for those who may not be aware, you know, in my work for Americans for Prosperity, I work on the eastern side of the state. And I also live in a place there in St. Louis, actually just down the street from this school. And so it's a place I drive by all the time. It's not a bad area. But at about 9:30, not between 9 and 9:30 yesterday morning, a call came in for an active shooter in that school. And on the positive side, the timeline for this moved very quickly. At 9:11 a.m., the call came in for an active shooter. 9:15, the police were there within 4 minutes. The police made entry, by 9:23, they located the suspect, and by 9:25, the suspect had been shot, and the building was secured. So that was the good thing, that it was taken care of very quickly. There were some downsides to that, and that it probably even more could have been done, that would have maybe even prevented more loss of life, because in the end, a teacher was shot and killed. A 16-year-old female student was shot and killed, and there were 6 other students who were injured in the process. So this was tragic all around. It could have been much worse. As we're looking at things, it also could have been better.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Camellia Peterson about a school shooting yesterday in St. Louis. Now, there's shootings that happen all the time, CJ. What was interesting was that, the politicians got out ahead of it. Cori Bush is out there making a speech. The mayor is making a speech. All the Democrats in Missouri, I think Shannon Watts, went out there and started blaming guns immediately. But how come they don't do that whenever there's a shooting in St. Louis? Because it seems like there's 4 or 5 shootings in St. Louis a day. This is the one that they managed to get on their soapbox for.
Well, I mean, it's always a bigger deal when you're talking about a school, because schools should be sacrosanct. I mean, like, who comes in and, shoots at kids? That's kind of a next level form of evil.
Pause for just a moment. It's a soft target. I mean, it's like the most obvious thing in the world. What I don't understand is how stupid these politicians are, that they think that we haven't taken steps to actually secure our schools. Because CJ, correct me if I'm wrong, there were some guards there at the school, right?
Right. And this was the first thing that popped into my mind. Is my assumption, especially given St. Louis's reputation, that my assumption was that every single school in St. Louis had armed police officers on campus. And so, but I was thinking, what, maybe they didn't, and so when I started looking, what comes out is that there were 7 security officers in the building, on campus. But when they did the press conference and the chief of police was talking about, one of the reporters said, we're hearing that the security guards were only armed with flashlights and nightsticks. Is that true? And the chief, said, he wasn't for sure, but that it was true that school safety, school safety officials are often not armed, and they were not armed. They could have, they have metal detectors. The doors are locked. There were all kinds of preventative measures. But they were not armed. And if they had been armed, for as fast as the police responded, it could have been even faster if those security officers had been equipped to do their jobs. That's what they're there for, is to protect children. And they could have done that, to the best extent of their ability if they had had that capability. And so the reporter said, when the police chief said that, the reporter said, well, should they be? And he said, well, it's probably not a bad idea to arm the security officers in our schools.
How stupid.
No kidding.
How stupid. How stupid do you have to be? You pay all this money for these resource officers, and they've got metal detectors, completely useless, pointless waste of time and money. It's security theater, Camellia. It's a joke. The politicians claim they care about kids when they do this stuff. They spend the taxpayer dollars on this stuff, and all it is a giveaway to big corporations, to the cronies that are their buddies, that they're buying the goddamn metal detectors from. So somebody's getting paid. The company that provides the flashlights, the company that provides the uniforms, they spend all this money on security, and it's theater. It's fucking theater.
And the thing is that, somebody who is hell bent on doing harm is probably going to find a way to do it. And that's the big question on everyone's mind, is how did the shooter, who, by the way, the shooter was a 19-year-old former student, graduated last year from that school. We don't know the motive yet. But how did he get entry into the building? Because the doors were locked, and the only thing that has been said is that the security officers were able to slow down his entry because the doors were locked. But somehow he still got in, and we don't know what weapon he had other than they call it a long gun. So, I mean, but they're not, I mean, and understandably so, they're not saying specifically how he got into the building. I don't think they want to give that away to other people who might have similar ideas. And of course, there's a lot of chatter right now in general about, what might happen with other schools in St. Louis. I think that's to be expected after something like this. But yeah, they could have been much better equipped to do the job and maybe prevented any loss of life. There are a lot of details, obviously to come out still that we just don't know everything yet, and probably won't know everything for a while. But here's the thing. When Democrats, and my first thought after this was about Republicans, to be honest, because I was like, I really, really hope that Republicans don't jump on this and start saying, see, this is why we need more, we need, fewer gun laws, and we need to arm teachers and all this and that, because, time and a place for everything. Let's, give it a few minutes. But the thing is that Democrats did not wait for this. They jumped immediately on it, saying, this is why elections matter and we need more laws and this and that. But the thing is, more laws, you are not going to legalize people into doing good. And especially when we are talking about St. Louis, ironically, just yesterday, a report popped up in my feed from one of the St. Louis news sites that said St. Louis is number one in the nation for homicide rates per capita. Kansas City in the last year has had the largest increase in homicides per capita in the nation. And St. Louis has been number one, I think, for the last couple of years. So, there's something that's not working with the current governance and policy that's going on, because St. Louis as a whole, population, it's just been going downhill. It's been going downhill for the last, 50 years or more. Population has declined. I mean, the peak in 1950 was over 850,000 people. They are now down to below 300,000 people. People are fleeing the city in droves. And in fact, people in St. Louis County and St. Charles County around them are seeing a rise in crime rates. And they attribute it. I've talked to people when I'm out door knocking, and that's the number one thing number two thing issues that they talk about. Two top issues are crime and I just lost the second one. But crime is the top one that they say something about. And so, they attribute that to the mass migration out of the city and bringing the crime with them out to the county areas. So there's something that's not working with that.
And it just happens to be in Democrat-held districts. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Camellia Peterson. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Camellia, on the topic earlier that we kind of mentioned, the question of pit bulls and 2-year-olds. Do you think that pit bulls find toddlers especially delicious?
They're tasty treats.
As I understand it, I'm pretty sure that toddlers are a staple on any pit bull's menu. It's required eating for any pit bull. I mean, in order for pit bulls to get so large, it's typically the blood of children that sustains them, correct?
Well, yeah, I know how you love to trigger people. You just been stirring that pot. Oh.
Well, we've been talking about. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If there is a community that is easily triggered, it will be the pit bull community.
Very easily triggered. You can say, Kanye's in trouble for talking about the Jews. Some people get in trouble for talking about blacks and crime. And then Austin Peterson, what is he going to get canceled for saying that pit bulls eat toddlers? I saw.
I love.
Go ahead.
I love dogs. But it is true that, some breeds are more prone to being unpredictable. And with pit bulls, it's maybe not so much that they're prone to being unpredictable and turning on you, so much as that when they do, because of how they're built, like the damage that they do is just terrible.
But people were trying to convince me yesterday. They're like, "Mom, a Chihuahua is more likely to bite you than a pit bull." I'm like, "Are you trying to? I mean, like." Are you seriously trying to equate a Chihuahua with a pit bull? And they will do that. They will look you in the eyes and tell you that. So when I posted the meme yesterday that got people all triggered about, the 2-year-old saying, when you're 2 years old, but your parents love pit bulls, and the 2-year-old's like, I guess I'll die. Somebody else sent me a meme that I thought was really even better. It showed a pit bull swimming. It's out in the ocean. It says, heroic pit bull swims 5 miles out to sea to bite a child. Oh my God. All right. Pit bull owners. Go ahead.
So here's the thing. The area I live in, out in Southwest Missouri, it's pretty rural, but there is a subdivision next to me. It's 5-acre lots, which is far enough apart that people still let their dogs run. And normally that's not a problem. But when I go walking in that area, the dogs that I am most wary of are the little ankle biters. And I watch them because they're the ones that'll come after you the most. But the only dog that has ever attempted anything with me was a pit bull. And that he actually, most of the time, if a dog comes after you and you yell at him and you're really stern, they'll back off. This one did not. He was like, oh yeah. And he came and he actually put his teeth, he didn't bite, but kind of a warning, I guess. He mouthed my thigh. And so anyway, that was I try to keep a pretty good relationship with my neighbors, but at that point I was writing a note and saying, I'm sorry, but if you don't keep him inside and take care of this, I will.
Yeah, no kidding. And you know how we take care of things like that here in Mo.
That's right.
Camellia Peterson, editor of the Libertarian Republic. We appreciate you for your time today. Thanks for your reporting on that very important story from yesterday. Thank you for your time.
Have a great day.
Good stuff. Did you like CJ? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That was Camellia Peterson. She's on every Tuesday and Thursday. We love having CJ on the show this morning. All right. Pit bulls are butt ugly. Euthanize them all, says Joni Rankin. Oh my God. We're totally getting canceled for that one. When we come back at 8:22, we're going to speak about Marlon Wayons. Yeah, from In Living Color. Remember him and White Chicks? Slamming cancel culture, trending on Twitter. And then at 8:35, Hannah Cox on the Satanic Panic. A lot of stuff is going to get me canceled here today on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Peterson's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Peterson's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Hello, Austin Peterson here. How are you? It's the Austin Peterson Show. No, it's Wake Up America at wakeupamericashow.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. Glad to have you here. Did you like that discussion with Camellia Peterson? I got you all talking about things like the 90s crime bill was effective because more incarceration equals less crime. We need a crime bill on steroids, says some guy 93. What do you think? Quest Fanning says that we've got lots of NYPD, but that strategy was never that effective. And I guess Chris Morrell's excited for Hannah Cox, who's going to be joining us at 8:30 to talk about the new Satanic Panic. Everything I don't like is satanic. One listener texted in this morning and said, watching out for the dogs, the pit bulls, bear spray. That's what you need to look out for. Another listener texted in and said, Michael Knowles got in trouble before you for saying that pit bulls need to be eliminated as a breed because they are too violent. What do you think? It's just funny because, we talk about cancel culture, what's going to get you in trouble, what's going to get you canceled today. Well, for me, it's pit bulls. For Marlon Wayons, it's white chicks. Actor and comedian Marlon Wayons slammed cancel culture in this new interview that was published this late last week. He vowed in it to never censor his work or his thoughts. He's known for his work in White Chicks, Scary Movie, Requiem for a Dream, and of course, my favorite, In Living Color back in the day. Wayons defended the comedy White Chicks in an interview that he did, which is about two black FBI agents that go undercover as two white women. Which classic, hilarious film if you've never seen it. When asked by BuzzFeed whether he thought that a movie like White Chicks could thrive in today's political climate, he responded, I think that they're needed. I don't know what planet we're on where you think people don't need laughter and that people need to be censored and canceled, he said. If a joke is going to get me canceled, thank you for doing me that favor. He said he has no intention of listening to those who are afraid of how the woke mob might respond online, and said it's sad that society is in this place where we can't laugh anymore. Damn true. Good for you, Marlon Wayons. Yeah, give him a cheer. I ain't listening to this damn generation. I ain't listening to these folks, these scared-ass people, these scared executives. Good for you, Marlon Wayons. Now, maybe this has already been talked about before, and maybe there's a whole online discussion that's been had, but does anybody remember the plot of the movie Ace Ventura? The whole idea behind Ace Ventura, the main thrust of the plot, if you will, not to use a pun intended, was that Finkel was Einhorn, and that Einhorn was Finkel, and that Finkel had been going around kissing dudes all over town, but Finkel's gun was digging into his hip. It was a transgender joke. The entire film, Ace Ventura, was based around a joke about a man in a dress pretending to be a woman. Do you think that they could have made a movie like Ace Ventura today? There's no way. And that was the movie that launched the career of Jim Carrey. I wonder what Jim Carrey thinks about that now. If Jim Carrey were interviewed about Ace Ventura now, and again, maybe I have missed the online outrage mob going after it. Did they do this? Did they already have we canceled Jim Carrey for Ace Ventura yet? Because I'm pretty sure that a movie like that would not fly. Certainly wouldn't get a screening in the White House, that's for sure. Not with the way that the White House is going today, as they head into far left woke activism. And, don't get me wrong, we've got plenty of transgender friends. People want to have their personal preferences, and adults want to live their lifestyle as they please. That's fine. But I know what we're gonna have somebody say. They're gonna say, "Oh, well, it's satanic." Well, maybe you're just caught up in the latest Satanic Panic. In living color is still the standard, says one texter. They say 2 snaps and around the world. I think that the snaps actually turned my pop filter on my I think I heard that my microphone shut off when I did that. Hold on. Yeah. It shuts. Yeah, my microphone shuts off whenever you do that. That's that pop filter. To try and, yeah, see, it stops the microphone whenever I do that. All right, well, it's time for us to have the discussion, ladies. Maybe it's time for us to bring out the church lady. No, we've got Hannah Cox. Her last name should be canceled. Hannah Cox from basepolitics.com is going to join us to talk about the new Satanic Panic. It's the 1980s all over again. Where's Jerry Falwell when you need him? Talk about that when we get back. Laces out. Dan Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn Finkel. Man, how much of this stuff that we've been talking about on the show today could get me canceled? Anti-Semitism and Jews with Kanye West, pit bulls, transgender stuff. This show, I don't know if we're going to make it. Well, let's enjoy it while it lasts. The Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Adidas website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Dee Dee made Frenchy Bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Dee Dee really likes it. Dee Dee said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every $1 we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. but as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans.
Do you have any real-world experience?
It's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning. It's 8:35, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Glad to have you here. You can text in at 573-319-1586. Russian President Vladimir Putin invoked Jesus, Satan, and transsexual boogeyman in a Kremlin ceremony for carving up Ukraine on the 30th of September. Satan. He's the problem. That's why he's doing what he's doing in Ukraine. And Matt Walsh is making similar news and trending the word satanic for calling Japanese cartoons satanic. He doesn't know why, but everything I don't like is satanic. Joining me now to discuss is my good friend Hannah Danielle Cox. Hannah is the founder and editor of Based Politics, co-founder of BasedPolitics.com. She's joining us on the show right now. Good morning, Hannah. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Morning.
Yeah, glad to have you.
Thanks for having me, Austin.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So what was your response when you heard that, Putin was attacking the West as satanic? Did you roll your eyes like I did, or how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I did. You know, you and I have different religious backgrounds and views. You come from more of an agnostic kind of background. I grew up in church. My dad's a pastor, but I have to roll my eyes at these kinds of things because it kind of triggers me. Okay. It reminds me of being a kid and like everything that was cool in the culture that I wanted to watch and partake in. Like they actually didn't usually call it satanic then, they would call it new age, but that was the same thing, right? It had like demonic forces behind it. And I'm talking everything from literally like, I was allowed to watch Powder Puff Girls to Teletubbies to all kinds of things. It was always something. And there was this magazine that came out and published called Plugged In Magazine, and it would come out and would rate all the different pop culture things and whether or not your kids should get to watch it. So it just ruined my childhood, and that's what this reminds me of.
But I'm betting that you probably were allowed to watch VeggieTales.
VeggieTales was definitely allowed in our house. Magic School Bus. There were a few things. Disney for the most part, although the Southern Baptists did boycott Disney for a little bit because they were a little too pro-gay. So yeah, there was a couple of constants, but I don't know. I think this kind of reminds me of, the moral panic that you saw in the 1990s, where you literally had Eminem being put on trial by Congress and video games and people kind of trying to question whether or not music and cultural things could lead to actual violence. You had churches that would have these big bonfires where you would come burn your secular entertainment items to show how devout you were to Christianity. And as a whole, this is the kind of thing that made me want nothing to do with organized religion throughout a lot of my adult life, even though I was still somebody who believed in God and had that spiritual sort of aspect to my life. I couldn't stand the way churches sort of lost their minds about this. And also, I think, prioritize things in exactly the wrong way. These are not things that hurt people. You can dislike things. You can think that they maybe even go against your religion without thinking that they're actually satanic or demonic. And I just think people should be a whole lot more concerned with all the actual evil in the world that is hurting people on a daily basis, right? And then that's what churches should be focused
I think I agree with you. And, I believe that Putin is very intelligent and that he knows exactly what he's doing when he says things like that, because, he wants to stoke dissent and dissension here in the United States, and he wants to get people on his side. And what better way to do that than to appeal to a Christian base that by, declaring what the West is doing demonic, to attack what conservatives are attacking here in the United States. And by declaring the West to be satanic, it sort of confirms the biases of many American conservatives here who may be teetering on the edge of supporting Russia over Ukraine. I mean, whatever side of the conflict you come down on, it doesn't matter to me here. But I mean, I think that Putin is very good at manipulating people, and there's no better way to manipulate people, in my opinion, than through religion.
Wow. Yeah, I think I can't disagree with that. It's often been used as a weapon to try to organize people, to try to control people's conduct, and to turn people against one another. I think ultimately, if you're a Christian, whether you're in Russia or you're in the US, then should be the fundamental you ascribe to. It shouldn't be coming down to in the US are good, Christians and Russia are bad. I think that's very sad. And, when we talk about the moral panic in the US, it's really more of a issue. When we talk about it in pertinence to Russia, this is things where you're trying to really rally people up to commit crimes, to murder people, to go to war, right? To hurt people, to take their things. And I think that's even sadder. I hope that, people in Russia see through that. Certainly we see through it here, but we have equal opportunity offenders. I think often when you look at politicians who will try to use these kinds of things to convince people that the political enemy is also an enemy of their religion. Motivate people, I think, to be a bit more passionate, and you start to really merge those lines of politics and religion. And I think that's always a really big issue in any country, and it's something we see happen here as well. Church and state is something that is often, the separation of church and state is often misunderstood, and I would say maybe isn't even as stringently enforced through our Constitution as I would have liked to have seen it at the founding. But I think it's a really important notion, because when you start to merge those things throughout history have been used to kill people, to hurt people, to commit genocide, right? Like many wars have been started around these sorts of religious elements. And so people need to be a bit more sober-minded, a bit more cautious and throwing out these kinds of terms, I think, and really make sure that you don't start to equate things like anime with actual satanic elements, right?
Now, we're going to get to that. Yeah, we're going to get to that next, definitely. I hate to interrupt you, Hannah. I just want to make sure people know who we're talking to. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Hannah Cox. She is the co-founder and president of basedpolitics.com, based-politics.com, if you want to learn more about her. We're talking a little bit about the Satanic Panic and about Putin's accusation that the West is satanic, and we're going to get to Matt Walsh accusing anime of being satanic here in just a minute. But I want to make one point here very briefly, because I know probably the majority of my listeners and followers are Christians and are believers in God and Jesus and are believers in Satan. But I think it's important that for these people to hear a point of view that you can disagree with abortion and you can disagree with the mutilation of children for surgeries and for loading them up with what they call gender affirming hormones. You can disagree with all of these things for perfectly secular reasons. And that it's important for you to know that there are people who are in your camp who believe in the Constitution and who believe in limited government and who have perfectly secular reasons for doing so. And that it's important for you, I know that, you're concerned mostly about you not being alienated, but it's important for you to understand that you should not alienate the people who are on your side, who agree with you on all of the policy issues, but for perfectly secular reasons. Now, on the other side of this, with the Matt Walsh, calling anime satanic, Hannah, let's put the shoe on the other foot here and maybe say, is it possible that people like Matt Walsh and Christians are just trying to wind up people like you and me, just trying to get a response, just trying to troll people like you and me on this?
I mean, when it comes to Matt Walsh, you can only assume that, right? Like he's kind of a professional troll. So I think he cares mostly about getting clicks more so than he does actually having a serious conversation about Christianity. That's been pretty apparent to me for some time. But I think the problem is that you have a lot of people who follow people like that, who take them seriously, who take them at their word. And I think even if you dig beneath the surface, like set Matt Walsh aside, what he's doing is common in Christianity, and it is common in our churches. And it is something I, again, have witnessed and seen and grown up with. And I think that it is a problem, most importantly to me, because if you're a Christian, the things that you should be predominantly concerned about are really out in the world, right? You need to be taking care of people. You need to be looking for ways to minister to people, to try to bring people together. When you're out there fighting the culture war first, not only are you more preoccupied with that and more preoccupied with like owning the different groups that you dislike, but you're also usually causing division and actually pushing people away from wanting to be involved with your way of thinking or your views, because it's so ridiculous. And again, that was something I experienced where I care a lot about the ways that we Christianity and society, and especially being an activist on things that really can hurt people in the political sector and trying to be involved in that way. But I was so turned off to being involved with church and really being around evangelicals, because I was like, if you're concerned with these things, right, you're more mad about Disney having a gay parade than you are that we lock people up for smoking marijuana and take away their lives and separate them from their children. Something's gone really, really wrong in your religion and also in your culture war, because these are not the things that are actually hurting people. And so I think that that's why it is so annoying to me. And it's not because I love anime. I've never even watched anime, but again, it's distracting, right? And I think that, and again, it can lead to actual worse outcomes than just being distracting. I think it can lead to real hatred amongst groups. I think it can lead to real divisions, and religion at its best should be a unifier and a healer and something that actually brings people together and helps them.
So Hannah, being a self-professed Christian, and a believer, do you believe in Satan?
Oh God, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that there's real spiritual warfare in the world. I absolutely believe in that, just as I believe I have a spiritual connection to God, and I pray, and I've seen, that work in my life, and I can point to many things throughout my time on earth where I know it was bigger than me, right? Bigger things have happened to me than I could have possibly created. But at the same time, I've also seen demonic spiritual warfare, where I think there are real evil elements in our society that are working against us, that hurt people, that can suck people into harmful lifestyles. So I think that is the real battlefront that we are facing. But again, don't equate things that you don't like in pop culture to that battlefront, right? I think that that's more akin to what you would actually see with Russia getting involved in, right? That's evil spiritual warfare, trying to convince people that the solution or the answer is to hurt others, to go to war, to take their things. That's the kind of things we need to be working against.
Man, this is good stuff. This is a great conversation, Hannah. We should definitely have this again. But if you want to get more commentary like this, you can check her out at based-politics.com. Hannah, is there anything else that you think our listeners should know before I let you go?
No, I would love for them to check out our work. Brad and I just took Base Politics full time. So we are hard at work over there, making lots of content, and appreciate you having us on and giving us the platform.
Congratulations to you, Hannah. Good for you.
Thanks, Austin.
Thanks so much for joining us. That's Hannah Cox, co-founder of basepolitics.com. What did you think of our interview with Hannah? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Now, I know that you all don't agree with me on this issue, but I think I've probably poked you enough on this one. The pit bulls thing a little bit early, but you got to be really careful when you're talking about the big guy, right? No, not the 10% for the big guy, not Joe Biden big guy, the other big guy, the one upstairs. I know. You can only take so much of my skepticism for once. You want me to be a believer, daydream believer, but I just can't say that it's compelling. The arguments aren't compelling to me. We've got one more segment to go. What will we talk about? Austin, pull up your rundown. Why men tend to sneeze loudly. Do you sneeze really loudly, guys? All right, there's a question for the men out there. Because, dude, when I sneeze, it's like a shotgun. And I have just been, like, doing some explosive sneezes this week because I got a cold. And I'm like, there's got to be a way to stop this, right? Actually, there's not. Some guy blew a hole in his throat trying to hold in a sneeze. I'm not kidding. Blew a hole in his throat. So I feel terrible because, when COVID happened, it's like, oh, you got to sneeze. It's like, you don't want to sneeze in public, but my sneezes are like, so loud. You can't stop it. You shouldn't stop it. You can sneeze through your nose, you can sneeze through your mouth. We'll talk about it when we get back. Are your sneezes big? You got big sneezes? Because, man, I'm loud. Talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
As a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you.
Enough yet? Do facts no longer matter? Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have. The facts on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? You can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tee and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's 8:52, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com. I'm your host, AP. Glad to have you over here. I love seeing all the new names and faces over there on YouTube. Our friend Victor is joining us this morning. I think it's the first time he's been commenting. Glad to have you engaged. He is definitely into the topic about God and Satan and the Satanic Panic. He says, everyone thinks if I could just get those Christians to stop paying attention to God and follow me, I could get a lot done. They think we're dumb lemmings because we believe in what they can't see. I mean, sure, we have problems using quotations correctly, but doesn't everyone? Very funny, Victor. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Glad to have you. Appreciate your comments. And, you know, we can always agree to disagree on certain things, but what we believe in most here, what everybody believes in, typically, who watches this show, is freedom. Economic freedom and personal liberty. That's what we stand for here on the show. Other things, well, we can agree and we can disagree. All right, before I get to this final topic here, I've got to show this to you. This is hilarious. Okay, check this out. This is, I'll pull this off of studio mode so you can see this. Somebody just sent it in this morning, one of our trucker friends who got this on my AP for Liberty shop. Check this out. This is awesome. This is a little boy. Apparently this little boy's name is Calvin. He's wearing my shirt. Now, this is a shirt that I made. I designed this myself. That is a picture of Calvin Coolidge over there and with a nice little slogan that says, Coolidge is my homeboy. And this is so we've got toddler sizes in this shirt because somebody requested, I think it was the trucker guy actually, who requested it. Look at this cute little boy with his Coolidge is my homeboy shirt. He got that over at the AP for Liberty shop. Good for you, little Calvin. I think his name is Calvin, actually. They named him Calvin. Good for you, little Calvin, and I hope you enjoy your shirt. And if you want to get one of those, they also have adult sizes over at apforlibertyshop.com. So do me a favor, head over to the show. You can support us by getting an AP for Liberty shop shirt, apforlibertyshop.com. Very cute, right? I like that. Okay, now what did I have for my final segment before I let you guys go? Oh, yeah, sneezing. Okay, so my wife was talking about how loud my sneezes are. So I actually Googled yesterday to try and find out if it's possible to sneeze quieter or if it's dangerous. Turns out it actually might be dangerous for you to sneeze quieter. There has been a lot of research on this one. This is amazing to me. There has been research done, and sneezes can actually be very dangerous if you try and hold them in, because a sneeze is supposed to be a defense mechanism to protect your airways from noxious fumes or particles and other environmental factors. And sneezes are triggered when the nerves in your nose detect a change in temperature or pain. So things like air conditioning, smoke, or even the sun can actually make you sneeze. The irritation to your nose makes it watery and itchy, and you always also feel the need to hold your breath, which leads to an explosive release of air, which is the sneeze. Why do we do this, right? So the sound of a sneeze comes from the air escaping your mouth or nose. The longer you hold your breath, the more dramatic you make it, according to researchers at the University of Brisbane. An average man's sneeze, when recorded from a distance of 60 centimeters, peaks at about 90 decibels. I'm pretty sure mine is like 140. Like mine is like, it really is like a gunshot. It is so friggin' loud, my sneeze. Can you control how loud you are is what I Googled, right? Can you control how loud you sneeze with higher functions? Now you can quiet your sneeze by like pinching and rubbing the nose or by sneezing through your nose, but that's a double-edged sword. If you sneeze through your mouth, it will be louder. But if you sneeze through your nose, it will be wetter and messier. So picture yourself at some engagement, right? You're like, okay, well, I need to be quiet, but so I'll just sneeze through my nose. And then it's just like, you're going to get that stuff. All the gook is going to come out of your nose, right? So, right. It's not just about like your body. Like men sneeze louder than women because of the size of our diaphragms and the size of our lungs, which are larger. So if you're a lady, you do not sneeze very loudly. But if you're a man, you can sneeze very loudly. Now, what happens if you hold in a sneeze? Doctors say don't do that. It's not advised. It's a bad idea. As a matter of fact, there was an x-ray that showed a hole in a man's throat that was caused by closing his mouth and his nose when he sneezed. If you try and suppress a sneeze, you could do damage to your esophagus or your pharynx. And it can cause extreme pain when you try and swallow. People have been in the hospital for this. I thought it was crazy. I was like, what is this? Is this true? You can actually hurt yourself, do real damage, blow a hole in your throat if you try and hold in your sneeze. Is that wild or what? That's crazy. Or you can get a hernia, says Al Johnson, for sure. Somebody says, I sneezed once and set off a 4.8 quake. That's Chris Worrell over in the live stream. That's hilarious. Did you say double-edged snort? No, I didn't say double-edged snort. I said snort or snort, either way. What about you? Have you got loud sneezes? Can you sneeze with your eyes open, asks Rare Camellia. I don't know. Never tried, but I think I will. I got a cold. All right. It's cold. Hey, did you know that I'm giving a speech this Thursday night at my old college in Springfield? If you're in Southwest Missouri or anywhere near Southwest Missouri, then you should join me in Springfield at Missouri State University at 7 p.m. in Southwest Missouri this Thursday night. I'm giving a speech at Turning Point about the price of liberty. What is the price of liberty? And who pays it? Who pays the price of liberty? I'll answer that question this Thursday night. Tony Allegra, Vic Rackers, Doug H., Quite the Caricature, Some Guy 93, Tolly Owens, Rare Camellia, all of our friends, Robbie Thurman, many others. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Glad to have you here. Hope you enjoyed it. That's just what Satan wants you to do. Enjoy this show. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
It's morning again in America. Our country is prouder and stronger and better.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning